I still remember the night it all began, the night that changed my life forever. It wasn't just any night. It was the kind of night where the sky felt alive, glowing with stars so bright you couldn't look away. I was standing outside the shop, staring at the heavens, when I saw it. A falling star. "Did you see that, Tristan?" A voice called from behind me. It was Victoria, the most beautiful girl in our little village. She was standing there, her hair shining under the moonlight, her smile as perfect as ever. "Yes," I said, my heart racing as I turned to her. "A falling star. It must have landed close by." Victoria tilted her head, her lips curling into a teasing smile. "Close by? It's probably miles away, Tristan. You'd never reach it." I hesitated, her words stinging more than they should have. Victoria had that way about her, always keeping me at arm's length, always making me feel like I wasn't quite enough. It was gonna be better. But tonight, I was determined to prove her wrong. "Victoria," I said, stepping closer to her, "what if I told you I could bring you that star? Would you believe me?" She laughed, a soft, melodic sound that made my chest tighten. "You? Bring me a star? Don't be ridiculous." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to smile. "I'll do it. I'll find that star and bring it back to you. I promise." She raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "All right, Tristan. If you can bring me that star, I'll give you." I blinked, stunned by her words. Was she serious? Or was this just another one of her games? But her smile didn't falter, and I knew I couldn't back down now. "You'll have your star," I said firmly, though my legs felt like jelly. The next morning I stood at the edge of the stone wall that marked the end of our village and the beginning of any known. The unknown wall was a world I'd only heard about in stories, a world of magic, danger, and impossible things. "Tristan, you're not really going out there, are you?" my mother asked, her voice heavy with worry. "I have to," I said, looking at her. "It's the only way I can show Victoria how much she means to me." She sighed, shaking her head. "You're just like your father, always chasing the impossible." I frowned. "My father? What do you mean?" She hesitated, her eyes searching mine. "It's time you knew the truth, Tristan. Your father wasn't just a shopkeeper. He came from the other side of the wall." I stared at her, my mind reeling. "You're saying my father was from that world?" She nodded. "And there's more. He left you this." She handed me a small, glowing necklace, a charm that pulsed with a strange, warm light. "It's magic," she said softly. "It will protect you. But you have to promise me one thing, Tristan. Be careful. The other side isn't like here. It's dangerous." I nodded, slipping the necklace over my head. They hung up the phones. "I'll be careful, I promise." Crossing the wall wasn't easy. There was an old guard who watched over it, and he wasn't exactly friendly. "You're not supposed to be here," he grumbled, blocking my path with his staff. "I need to cross," I said, my voice shaking slightly. It's important. Important, eh? He said, narrowing his eyes. Do you have any idea what's out there, boy? Witches, pirates, creatures that'll eat you alive. I'm not afraid, I lied. He snorted, but stepped aside. Fine. Don't say I didn't warn you. The world beyond the wall was strange. The air felt different, heavier, and the colors were brighter, almost unreal. I walked for hours, following the faint trail of light I'd seen the night before. The forest was thick and quiet, its soft prayer. It was lying in a small crater, its light soft and pulsing, like a heartbeat, almost unreal. I walked for hours, following the faint trail of light I'd seen the night before. But it wasn't just a star, it was a girl. I froze, staring at her. She was lying on the ground, her silver hair glowing faintly, her face serene, as if she were sleeping. What are you? I whispered, stepping closer. Her eyes opened suddenly, and I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a rock. What do you mean, what am I? She said, sitting up and glaring at me. I'm a star. You're a star, I repeated, I still sweating. I felt myself trembling. I waited until the sound of my feet died away. It was a star, I repeated, my voice changing. Yes, she said impatiently. And who are you supposed to be? I'm Tristan, I said, my heart pounding. I came to find you. Well, congratulations, she said, standing up and brushing off her dress. You've found me. Now what? I need to take you back, I said, though the words felt strange even as I said them. To my village. She crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. Take me back? Like I'm some kind of prize? No, I said quickly. It's not like that. It's just, there's someone waiting for you, for your light. Her expression softened slightly, though her eyes were still wary. And what happens if I say no? I hesitated, realizing I hadn't thought that far ahead. I'll figure something out, she sighed, her shoulders slumping. To see if you come, she whispered. Eyes. They strained a natural color. Fine. But if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. We walked for what felt like hours, her silver light guiding us through the dark forest. She introduced herself as Yvaine, though she wasn't exactly thrilled about the situation. You're risking your life for a girl who doesn't care about you, she said bluntly. She does care about me, I insisted. Does she? Yvaine said, her tone sharp. Or does she just like the idea of you chasing after her? Her words stung, but I couldn't argue with them. Before I could respond, a shadow passed overhead, and a chill ran down my spine. What was that? I whispered. Yvaine's face grew serious. Trouble. We need to move, now. Yvaine's warning sent a shiver down my spine. The calm of the forest suddenly felt like a trap. Shadows danced unnaturally, and the sound of the wind was replaced by an eerie silence. "Trouble?" I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yes," Yvaine said, her silver glow dimming slightly as she stepped closer to me. "Do you hear that?" I strained my ears, and then I heard it. A faint whooshing sound, like wings slicing through the air. "What is that?" I asked, gripping the charm around my neck. "Witches," Yvaine said simply, her voice tight. "Witches?" I repeated, my stomach twisting. "They're after me," she explained, her voice low. "A star's heart can give them eternal youth. If they catch us..." She didn't need to finish. "We need to run," she said, grabbing my arm. "Run where?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. "Anywhere but here." We sprinted through the forest, the sound of wings growing louder behind us. My legs burned, and my heart felt like it might burst, but the fear of being caught pushed me forward. "Keep going!" Yvaine shouted. Ahead, I saw an open field, lit by the faint glow of the moon. It looked safer than the suffocating darkness of the trees, but Yvaine pulled me in the opposite direction. "Not there," she hissed. "They'll see us." We dove into a dense thicket, the branches scratching at my arms and face. We crouched low, trying to catch our breath. "Do you think they're gone?" I whispered. Yvaine didn't answer. She was staring at the sky, her glow faint. "Stay quiet," she said finally. "They're close." Suddenly, the sound of wings stopped. The silence was even more terrifying than the noise. I held my breath, clutching the charm around my neck so tightly it hurt. And then, a voice. "Come out, little star," it called, smooth and sickly sweet. "You can't hide from me." I glanced at Yvaine, her face pale but determined. She held a finger to her lips, signaling me to stay silent. The voice grew closer. "I could smell your light. You're wasting your time trying to run." I felt my heart hammering in my chest. The shadow of a figure passed through the trees, and I felt the urge to scream. Yvaine leaned closer to me, her voice barely a whisper. "When I say run, you run. Don't look back." "What about you?" I whispered back. "Just do it," she said firmly. Before I could argue, Yvaine stepped out of the thicket, her silver glow brightening. "Looking for me?" she called out, her voice steady. The figure turned toward her, its twisted silhouette barely visible in the darkness. It was a woman, but her features were sharp and unnatural, her eyes glowing faintly. "Ah, there you are," the witch said, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "You're even more beautiful than I imagined." Yvaine's glow intensified, blindingly bright. "You'll never have my heart." "Run!" Yvaine shouted, and I obeyed, my legs carrying me away from the thicket as fast as they could. I ran until my lungs burned, the forest blurring around me. When I finally stopped, I realized I was completely alone. "Yvaine!" I called out, panic setting in. There was no answer. I gripped the charm around my neck, willing it to do something, anything. And then, to my surprise, it began to glow, The light pulsed faintly, pulling me in a specific direction. I followed it, hoping it would lead me back to Yvaine. After what felt like hours, I stumbled into a clearing. In the center stood a tall man with a sword strapped to his back. He turned toward me, his face shadowed, but his stance strong. "You look lost," he said, his voice deep and calm. "I'm looking for someone," I said breathlessly. "Eh?" "A girl. Silver hair. She's a star." The man raised an eyebrow. "You're either very brave or very foolish." "Please," I said desperately. "She's in danger. I need to find her." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "You're lucky. I just saw her. She was heading toward the cliffs." "The cliffs?" I repeated, my heart sinking. "She's trying to get away from the witch," he said. "If you hurry, you might catch her." I didn't waste another second. The cliffs were steep and treacherous, the storm making the rocks slick and dangerous. I climbed carefully, my hands and feet slipping more than once. When I reached the top, I saw Yvaine standing at the edge, her silver glow faint. "Yvaine," I called out. She turned, her eyes wide with relief. "Tristan!" Before I could reach her, the witch appeared, her twisted features illuminated by a flash of lightning. "Stay back!" Yvaine shouted, stepping between me and the witch. "Such bravery," the witch sneered. "But it won't save you." I clenched the charm around my neck, feeling its warmth spread through me. "You can't have her," I said, stepping forward. The witch laughed. "And what are you going to do about it, boy?" The charm's glow intensified, and I felt a surge of energy. Without thinking, I held it up, the light exploding outward in a blinding flash. The witch screamed, her figure dissolving into shadow. When the light faded, Yvaine and I stood alone on the cliff, the storm finally beginning to calm. Yvaine turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved me." "I couldn't let anything happen to you," I said, my voice soft. She smiled, her glow brighter than ever. "You're different, Tristan. You don't see me as just a prize, do you?" I shook my head. "No. You're so much more." Her smile faded slightly, and she looked out at the horizon. "We've been through so much, Tristan, but I think the hardest part is still ahead." I didn't know what she meant, but I nodded. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't chasing something impossible. I was exactly where I was meant to be. If you enjoyed this story and want to know what happens next, make sure to like the video and type "next" in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next video.